Welcome everyone to the second episode of our Tuesday against executions. Today it is my honor to introduce you Professor Philippe Jaffé. I hope I have rightly pronounced your name. Who is a leading expert and a fighter, I can say, for children's rights and especially for health support of children in the justice system. He is, in addition to his academic experience, he's also an activist, but right now, it's the vice president of the UN Committee for the Rights of Children. So it is our honor today to have him, and without insist about the extensive experience, I would like to give you the floor for the starting of that podcast and just to have a conversation of approximately 30 minutes, starting from precisely the point of the health and mental health, in particular, condition of children involved at any level in the judicial system.
Yeah, well, thank you very, very much for inviting me. I mean, you said it's an honor. The honor is mine, and for a couple of reasons. One is that it's a subject, the detention of children for any reason is very close to my heart for two reasons. One is that I spent a lot of years as a forensic psychologist working in maximum security institutions. And the other reason is that I actually traveled to Iran twice to engage on children in detention or who had been sanctioned with the death penalty. So these are issues that are very close to my heart. And more generally, it's close to the heart of everybody who's involved in human rights or children's rights, because it's such an egregious, I'm talking about the death penalty, an egregious violation of children's rights. So these are issues that cannot be ignored. So what we know is that children who are imprisoned are not just any children. They come with a lot of mental health baggage. And in general, in every country I know, things don't get much better in prison, or it's pretty much an exception. So detention of children is a bad response of society, if I could just put it so plainly. But I mean, of course, the children who have been convicted of very serious crimes, or whether it's they actually committed them or if they're arbitrary crimes, those who are detained long term or who face death penalty at some point, their mental health issues just go through the roof, of course. And there's no way you can keep your full sanity and progress in your cognitive and emotional development in a rational, normal way. And so, yeah, these are very serious issues. And it's always, to me, it's always very depressing that states and governments just don't realize the amount of distress that they're causing to these children, and really, in a way, giving their own penal policies and regulations a black eye. And it just amazes me. You know, and I don't want to go on too long. I mean, for many governments, uh, when you put people in prison, it's a way of getting rid of them and not seeing them anymore. But that's not reality. Uh, you can put people in prison, but they still have to be cared for. And they also have extended families and communities that they belong to, and that needs to be taken into account. So that's my initial.
Thank you very much for this. I just have a question about for people who is going to watching us after and who is not necessarily aware, unfortunately, about the situation of children in prison in Iran. So those children are arbitrarily detained as a member of supposed family against the regime, are detained separately and just with individual charges, or either they are used as a sort of potential arm against the oppositor to regime. What is the kind of detention of those children, and what is the age of those children detained in Iran?
Well, I don't have really exact figures, and I don't think anyone really has exact figures. The penal policy, detention policy in Iran is rather opaque. We know that from a variety of sources that there are a fairly large number of, well, I mean, obviously large because no other country executes children or adults who have committed crimes when they were children. But in general, Iran practices a very peculiar, from a child's rights perspective, form of criminal justice in the sense that criminal responsibility can be very, very, very low for boys. So I can't remember if it's 14 or 15, but for girls even younger. And so here you are, Iran is a total outlier, and the prison conditions are quite despicable, for sure. Now, having said that, the regime, the government knows that. And when I actually visited Iran and Tehran only, I was actually brought to see some marvelous prisons where people were cared for in ways that, you know, you would be jealous and probably want to spend some time wherever you are in a detention center. So, you know, prisons are places of great distress, of huge human rights violations, where there's an imbalance of power between those who are kept and those who care and represent the repressive side of things. And we know that, yes, the violations are just enormous. And Iran, in addition, practices pretty barbaric forms of detention in isolation, no contact with family, no contact with any outside counsel if you're pre-trial. And so, you know, these are just the worst conditions you can imagine. And the lack of predictability, I would say, for anyone, in particular a child, but for anyone entering a detention center and not knowing what's going to happen to you ever at any point in the following days, months, and years is something that is very, very hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it's there's no human condition, human person able to resist to a such kind of indetermination about the lack of one of the basic rights defining fair trial, which is the clear definition of charges at a certain point, and even before entering in pre-trial, detention. So, you mentioned the fact that you had the chance. Let me use the term. You were lucky to have the possibility to visit Iran. I don't know when, but this is really interesting because you possibly know better than me that all UN mechanisms, especially the UN Special Rapporteur, is strictly forbidden to visit the country. So.
I should add, because I can't let it hang as a semi-secret. My visit was very official with the highest level of UN representatives, and it was in 2018 or 2019 at the invitation of the Iranian government. And maybe remember this better than I do. It was was it the 50th anniversary of the revolution that was celebrated in 2019 or 2020?
Maybe, yeah.
So it was sort of the preparation of these important celebrations, and the regime was opening to dialogue. And it was a very, very interesting visit, by the way, because despite everything that's said negatively about Iran, I met with incredibly erudite, knowledgeable, thoughtful professionals who find a way to survive in a professional environment which is, how should I say, persecutory, and where you cannot follow ethical standards in a way that most professionals would want. And that included psychiatrists and judges. You could tell that some of the conversations, these very respectful judges just had to contort their thinking in ways that was at times absurd to fit an ideology, to fit a system that uses repression and detention in a programmatic way to control the population. So
the law of oppression, or the instrumentalization of law as a tool of deleting everything, every voice.
You try to create fear. You try to make sure that people think twice about doing anything sideways, and always express, at least publicly, total obedience, which after a while is, you cannot fake it anymore. And that's why, this is why I'm so happy you invited me, because the Tuesdays Against Execution movement is in a way a symptom of how the system can't work. And think of it, you're a prisoner, you're detained in incredibly negative conditions, and because really hope is, you only have slivers of hope, you still have the courage to revolt in some way. And that is a signal that a regime cannot survive long term.
The truth always find the way. That's the point. So, and that's why I feel so privileged and sometimes scared, let me say, to be not at the level of such value that people of Iran every day, and especially on Tuesday, demonstrate, not only to us, but to all the world.
Yes.
So my question is, since you were at that time with that particular, thank you for sharing that experience, very interesting. So in the light of what you just said, do you think that soon after, during the pandemic, but soon after the pandemic, or because of the pandemic, the situation is even worse, degenerated because of the pandemic? Because since your visit, there's no possibility to any UN mechanisms to visit the country.
No, there's been a very clear deterioration in terms of the penetration of external uh,
influence.
figures
Mm.
uh, in whatever internal processes take place in Iran. And we've been briefed at the committee by the special rapporteurs related to various aspects. And it's a very, very dire situation. And again, it shows it's only a handful of states around the world that practice this level of secrecy and control. But it's well, of course, it's a tragic for any state. But again, I want to emphasize Iran is an incredible civilization that has
Yeah,
contributed so much to
yeah.
the world that it's particularly sad to see this take place, and for a proud and learned society to be yeah kept under control to this degree is just
I,
really sad.
I thank you to mention that because some times ago, and let me use that place also to give a force in some way to people of Iran, recalling their precious history, who was an example to the entire world. You
Absolutely.
know that very recently, and so we moved to some sketch of archaeology in near to the old Persian regime, which is in the territory of Iran still. Uh, the 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 last very recently there was a sort of discover of old writing, which was the kind of distribution of compensation for work among women and men.
Mm,
So nowadays we can say, grateful to archaeology, that in the old Persian uh, 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 civilization, women and men had the same rights.
mm.
So under Cersei. So it is fantastic. So to mention, thank you to recall to the world the great civilization of Iran.
Yeah,
It
well,
is, I think, incredible,
I,
like you, to see what is happening today.
yeah, I think the paradox or the is just very hard to metabolize. I will go a little bit further. I obviously don't speak any Farsi.
No, no.
I don't
Mm.
understand a word, but I was very, very fortunate to spend a couple of hours listening to poetry in Farsi. And even if you don't understand a word, it's just one of the most beautiful languages you can listen to. And so again, I think that even the modern expression of arts and culture in Iran that is not controlled is something to be valued, and we see it outside of Iran also from all the people who have had to leave. But coming back to the issue of children's rights, um, we feel the Committee on the Rights of the Child feels obviously very, very strongly that there should at least be a moratorium on all capital punishment, death penalties, especially for minors, but also that there has to be a clear program that tackles how children are treated and evaluated and taken care of within the criminal justice system. And it just can't stay the way it is because it really is how should I say it, it will only generate a more dysfunctional aspect of society down the line. I mean, the children are the most precious beings in a society, and to treat them that way in such large numbers, and also again, the repercussions on the family and the community is just enormous. So I just pray that the very brave people in detention and on the streets and wherever they are in Iran find some way to mobilize. And I'm not advocating for violence. I abhor violence, but that they find a way to make their mm, views of society be known, and especially a shout out to the women who have been incredibly courageous these past few years. And I think it's coming back to your point, I think it's in their DNA over hundreds, if not thousands of years, that is just
Exactly.
never going to go away. So, men in Iran, you should just beware. At some point, women will be a force to be
Yeah,
reckoned with.
yeah. Thank you very much for saying that. Just let me take that opportunity to recall that today there is another prison, Yazd prison. I hope to have a not so bad pronunciation, who joined the movement. So in this 77th day of protest, the prisons taking part are 48 right now. So this is a very impressive movement that is going on, and it is one more privilege to try to be their voice through this podcast today. So, going to the conclusion, I would like to ask you, because we used to take this space also to asking to our guests to give a direct message to people of Iran, especially to people in the 48 prisons at that time. So feel free to say directly to them what you feel.
Well, obviously, I feel that they are going through the most horrific ordeal that most of us will ever fathom, that their courage is an inspiration, that the fact that they're able to continue and indeed expand despite the risk of reprisals, not only to themselves, by the way, but also to their families and loved ones, is, and it's easy for me to say, an inspiration, but they are also carrying a message of hope in a way that you can try and control and um, a person only to a certain extent, and that those human fibers that they're expressing with their movement really is um, a form of quiet revolution within a system that cannot contain the human spirit. I know it's very easy to speak of for and to send a message. I've worked in maximum security prisons in a former life. It's so difficult to go against the repression and the control, but in a way, it speaks to their bravery. And again, I think that it's an inspiration, but not to minimize at all what they're doing. They're just one other expression of a undercurrent of revolt within many sectors of Iranian society. So in that way, it's about solidarity and it's about altruism, and all these sectors have to be coordinated and synergic.
Thank you very much for your words and for mentioning uh, several times the need to do not let alone family of prisoners, because in the statement refused today by the prisoners. There is a very insisting point, among other things, about the the important question: to not leave families of death row prisoners alone. So we are here not only on the side of prisoners, but of course on the side of families. And I really appreciate your work and your dedication, your participation today. Let me underline that today we had, you underlined yourself that, but your expertise is not legally one, because our first guests were from the legal world. And this is really important, not only to me, but in general terms, because, and this is a special message to my uh, fellow lawyers colleagues, to try to be 2.0 lawyers, because a lawyer who does not take care of psychological, emotional, and social context, the family context, is not a lawyer, is a mechanic. Let me say that. So we increasingly need to join force with all aspects or involved, and all people specialized in the different sectors involved into the support of victims and survivors of such a kind of heinous crimes in Iran and everywhere people is oppressed. So thank you very much, Professor Jaffé, for be with us. I do really hope that this is will be the first step of joint effort. And also today I would like to conclude giving just a short message directly to children. You know that sometimes it's quite difficult, including to imagine how we can do the worst to anyone, but especially to our future. After all, our children are our future, the future of a nation, the future of humanity. And let me be in some way dure and say that I don't know, Professor, if you are aware about, I don't know in nature any other species, any other gender, uh, or how do you say that, any other race treating their children, their little, in the way how certain humans treat their ones. I mean, in other words, I don't think that in nature no one take care of the future generation like it is happening now in Iran, and unfortunately in other parts, in many other parts of the world. So today, more than ever, we must stand on the side of justice and fight against impunity, but most important, prevent arbitrary detention and execution of children. So this is my message for all these little boys and girls and their families. Most important, be strong. We are always with you. Professor, do you want to add any other last words before?
Well, I'm so appreciative of what you said, because children have to be strong in the face of very complex times. And you mentioned Iran, but as you pointed out, there are very scary things happening around the world,
Yeah.
things we haven't seen in generations. And I'm a optimist by nature, but I have to say I'm very worried, because when states can carry out violations of rights of the most vulnerable, and I would add to the children and the women, and and persons with disabilities and poor people and minorities.
Yeah.
We are in a very dire moment of history. And I just hope that your plea will be heard and that we can all rally together to avoid
Yeah.
going further down on this slippery slope. And impunity has to be fought tooth and nails.
Thank you very much for your words. I'm optimistic too, despite the situation. But you know, I used to say that to be optimistic doesn't mean deny the reality. Means that we know the reality, but we still have the force, the value, and the courage, like people of Iran, to imagine a new, a new solution, a new perspective, a new one world around us and for everyone. This is be optimistic, also to me. So thank you very much to stay with us today. It has been a great pleasure to stay in conversation with you, and hope to see you soon, and give me to send a big hug to people of Iran, and see you next Tuesday. Thank you very much.